It looked like it's happening. Angel Reese is asking out of Chicago already.
Angel Reese officially puts the Chicago Sky on notice. We're not doing the same thing this offseason that we did last offseason. Stop bringing me bums to play with.
So Angel Reese just told the Chicago Tribune that she's totally done with the same crap we did this year. She's demanding the Sky bring in top-tier players to surround her. Pretty bold, right? But here's the thing. She's actually leading the entire league in turnovers, even though she missed weeks of games. And honestly, she can still barely make a layup. What's crazy is she even earned herself a suspension recently. Reese wanted to shake up her teammates, but it really makes you wonder if she's the one the Sky should be looking to move on from. It makes you think, is Angel Reese actually the WNBA's biggest hoax? She's definitely no Caitlin Clark, that's for sure. I mean, are you Team Clark, the baby goat, or Team Reese, the baby giraffe?
Stop bringing me these players. I want the best of the best. I want the upper echelon.
Angel Reese is fed up. She's tired of the losing. She's tired of being the gum on the bottom of the shoe of the league. She is fed up with the Chicago Sky, and it looks like Angel Reese wants out.
Yeah, it really feels like she's trying to get out of there. Can you even imagine? You demand that your teammates get swapped out, and then you're the one your own team might be ready to cut loose? That's exactly the mess Angel Reese walked herself into after those comments she made to the Chicago Tribune, and she wasn't even subtle about it. Reese just flat out said she wasn't going to settle for the same crap we did this year. She even doubled down, saying that getting good players and great players was a non-negotiable part of her future in Chicago. That honestly didn't sound like a franchise player trying to help her team grow. It sounded more like a brat trying to completely dismantle her own roster on record. We'll see how that plays out.
Let's see what Angel Reese had to say. I'm not settling for the same shit we did this year. Oh boy. Reese told the Tribune, we have to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I'm willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this offseason. So it's going to be very, very important this offseason to make sure we attract the best of the best, because we can't settle for what we have this year. Overhaul this roster.
So, what's the real problem here? That interview didn't just ruffle a few feathers, not at all. Apparently, it totally infuriated her teammates and even veterans all around the league. And get this, word got out that they actually had to organize a full-blown locker room sit-down just to talk through all the fallout. That's definitely not what you see happening in healthy teams, right? That's pure damage control. I mean, imagine someone who hasn't even fully proven themselves yet, and suddenly half the team needs a special meeting because of stuff you said. That's not leadership at all. That's just a recipe for total dysfunction.
So it's that multiple lead sources told Front Office Sports that the entire team has seen Angel Reese comments that teammates are unhappy with the direct attacks. A team meeting is planned at which players are expected to address Reese directly.
And it wasn't just general complaints either. She took a direct shot. Of all her comments, one of the nastiest jabs was aimed right at Courtney Vandersloot. I mean, Vandersloot was already out for the season because of a bad ACL injury, but Reese just totally brushed her aside. She made it sound like Courtney was too old for where the Sky are now and where they're headed in the future. And that really stung, because Vandersloot isn't just some random player. She's a super respected veteran point guard, has a championship under her belt, and is one of the best court managers this league has ever seen. So basically just tossing her aside like that does way more than just insult Courtney. It totally alienates every other veteran still playing in the league who knows they've earned their respect.
We can't rely on Courtney to come back at that age that she's at, Reese said. I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done it before. Courtney Vandersloot, by the way, two-time WNBA champion, 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-WNBA first team, left the New York Liberty, a championship caliber team, to come help out the Chicago. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's like, it's all right, Courtney, it's all right. And what's crazy is, that's where the real irony just takes over. The Chicago front office had already bent over backward trying to build this team around Reese. Remember, they actually gave up Sonia Citron, who by the way is currently in the Rookie of the Year race and even became an All-Star in her very first year. They gave her up just to bring in Ariel Atkins. That move was literally supposed to give Reese exactly what she was asking for, established talent to win right now. But instead of showing any gratitude, Reese just acted like the staff and the whole roster just weren't good enough. You really can't complain about the front office not trying when they sacrificed a potential franchise cornerstone all for your benefit.
It is looking spooky in Chicago. Instead, Reese said she doesn't believe her teammates Rachel Berman or Haley Van Lith are capable of leading them to the leading the playoff team. Guard Ariel Atkins is another player on the Sky roster with WNBA championship experience. We are aware of it, Marsh stated.
So we're adjusting, right? This whole thing would have been frustrating enough if she had only gone after the veterans. But she didn't stop there. Even younger teammates like Haley Van Lith couldn't escape the shade. Reese was basically implying that the entire team was either too old, too average, or just too soft. So suddenly, the veterans felt completely insulted, the younger players felt dismissed, and the one person who was supposed to be tying that locker room together ended up being the common enemy. Reese might have wanted a team rally, but instead, she just ended up directing all the frustration right back at herself.
We need great players, and I don't know what that will attract that. Maybe the practice facility will attract that. We'll see. But I think the priority is being able to convince free agents that this is an organization that is going in the right direction. I think, honestly, it would be a leap of faith for a great player to come here and show that this is something that they want to be a part of, and we can bring that championship mentality. A leap of faith to think that a great player would want to come to Chicago. Oh boy.
And honestly, when you look at her actual on-court impact at the same time, it's really clear why this whole power play totally backfired. I mean, if you're gonna put yourself above the rest of the roster, you really need to be backing that up with pure dominance, right? But instead, Reese became the one who was totally out of sync. She was the one who just didn't seem to fit into the very system she wanted to reshape. So what's more, the vision she imagined might have actually ended up highlighting the truth. Chicago really didn't want to admit their biggest problem might not be the roster she criticized, it might just be Angel Reese herself. And what makes that sting even worse, while she was out there demanding upgrades and great players, she couldn't even manage one of the most basic things on the court, just keeping the ball in her own hands.
Hey, it's not all her fault. Her teammates stink. They gotta catch that, right? Right! Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby, put down the butter. Butter pecan! Bang! This time of the year's the best. You got pumpkin spice football and Angel Reese layups. Bang! Final play of the game, Angel Reese clutch Gene. Womp, womp, womp. That's my Barbie. Bang!
What if the very player who was out there demanding a total roster overhaul was actually the one dragging her own team down? Well, that's pretty much exactly what ended up happening with Angel Reese. On paper, sure, she put up some numbers like around 14 to 15 points per game and a double-digit rebound average. That sounds pretty solid at first glance, right? But look closer and you see she's leading the entire WNBA in turnovers, even though she missed several weeks of action with an injury. Seriously, think about that for a second. She sat out, she played fewer minutes than most of the other stars, and she still managed to rack up more giveaways than anyone else. That is not dominance. That's just really careless basketball.
For you, 20% of the time, Angel Reese gets her shot blocked inside of 9 feet. And 100% of the time, she's doggy doo-doo. Burn! Give it to the lady in orange. Uh-oh, you're out. Simon didn't say. 101 turnovers in 26 games for our 2K cover. She's a stat stuffer. Bang! At least she always brings the boom. I'll see you tomorrow night. Bang!
Babe. Turnovers happen, right? Sometimes a player just tries to force the game a little too much, but with Reese, it wasn't just about being aggressive. It really showed impatience, some pretty bad decision making, and just an inability to keep control when the pressure was on. And get this, her issues didn't stop there. She also really struggled with discipline in another category, technical fouls. You just don't want to see your supposed cornerstone leader constantly arguing with referees, losing her composure, and racking up whistles that end up hurting your own team. Yet Reese hit that disciplinary threshold faster than almost any player should, picking up her 8th technical foul of the season. By league rule, that meant an automatic 1-game suspension.
And watching the bottom of your screen. The contact by Reese.
You can see Angel's right hand got Aaliyah Edwards on the head. And if they do, Lisa, I'm okay with that too, because I think you have to officiate these teams very tightly.
So it'll be a technical.
Yeah, a technical foul. That's a suspension. And it didn't just come on some random Tuesday, you know? It hit right before a totally crucial matchup against the Indiana Fever. Fans had been circling that game on their calendars for weeks. It was the Indiana Fever against the Chicago Sky. It was a big rivalry the league was trying to market, and Reese just managed to knock herself right out of it. Not because of an injury, not for rest, but because she struck Aaliyah Edwards in the head on a rebound play. Whether you think it was intentional or not, the referees saw enough to call it, and the league really had no choice but to enforce that suspension. That's not just a personal embarrassment, that's a direct hit to your own team at seriously the worst possible time.
Angel Reese, oh damn, has been assessed with 8 technical fouls, and she will be.
And the irony here is just too rich to ignore. Seriously. The Chicago Sky, this team supposedly built around Reese, often looked like a way more cohesive and energetic group when she wasn't on the floor. The ball moved better, they defended with so much more urgency, and sometimes they even managed to pull out wins without her. Just think about how backwards that really is. Usually, the mark of a star is that their presence totally raises the team's ceiling, but in Reese's case, the less she played, the more often her team actually found success. That's like a franchise player in reverse. If you ask Sky fans if they felt like Reese was the foundation for their future, many would probably tell you it feels more like they're just stuck with an anchor holding them down. She really wanted to prove she was the centerpiece, but the results painted a totally different picture. I mean, what good are 15 points and 12 rebounds if they're buried under clumsy turnovers, constant arguments with refs, and suspensions happening at the absolute worst moments? Watching Reese on the court wasn't like watching a savior, it was watching a liability you just couldn't depend on when the season hit its key moments.
Now, how many players are going to listen to what Angel Reese had to say about Courtney Vandersloot? Are going to listen to what Angel Reese had to say about her current teammates? How many players are going to say, oh yeah, I want to play with that player who has no problem throwing me under the bus with 3 games to go? I want to play with that.
Yeah, probably not many. And that total lack of stability really exposes a huge contrast, because while Reese was out there burning bridges and dragging her own team lower, another young star was taking a completely different approach. And that sets us up perfectly to really look at the kind of leadership and professionalism that Caitlin Clark brought to Indiana. Now here's the big difference. While Angel Reese was busy just tossing shade at her own teammates, Caitlin Clark was doing the total opposite. Clark has been under the most intense spotlight probably any player has ever faced in WNBA history. Every single detail of her career is magnified, every game is under a microscope, and every tiny mistake becomes a huge headline. You'd totally expect that to wear someone down, but Clark handled it all with so much patience and professionalism right from the very start. Even when she went down with injuries, she still traveled with the Indiana Fever, sitting right there on the sidelines, cheering on her teammates, and just making sure her presence was felt. That really showed commitment. Meanwhile, Reese stayed totally away from her team when she was hurt, just leaving her teammates to carry on without her.
The Indiana Fever destroy the Chicago Sky in Indianapolis on Saturday. Guess who wasn't there? Angel Reese. Angel Reese declined to travel to Indianapolis, and her coach came out and said something about, you know, she's just focused on her rehab right now, and she's day to day. We've never had an explanation on what caused the back injury, what's a time frame for her recovery. It's similar to so-and-so's back injury. This is something she struggled with here or there. All we've heard is day to day, and Angel Reese.
I mean, Lisa just disappeared, but Clark's way of carrying herself has gone way, way beyond just showing up on the sideline. She's shown some real sportsmanship in ways you just don't often see from young players. One of the clearest examples came when she publicly praised Angel Reese's performance in a game, even though the two are supposedly rivals. Well, at least that's how it is in Reese's head. Instead of fueling unnecessary drama, Clark actually gave Reese credit where she really thought it was deserved. Just think about the huge difference there. While Reese used interviews to rip apart her own roster, Clark used hers to build bridges, both with her teammates and even her opponents. That's leadership, plain and simple, and the impact on her own roster, that's just impossible to ignore. When Clark is on the floor, Aaliyah Boston looks so much freer, more confident, and seriously dominant in the paint. Guards like Lexi Hull and Kelsey Mitchell spread out and find way better looks, all because Clark's incredible passing just draws defenses completely out of position. Even Sophie Cunningham, who thrives on spacing and energy, fits perfectly with the style Clark brings to the floor. What really makes it stand out is Clark doesn't just score, she's also averaging over 9 assists per game. She's elevating everyone around her.
And still averaged well over 8 assists per game this year, despite missing so many games because of injury.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of this group. I think we've shown all season long, like, they're resilient, they're connected. They pull for each other. They enjoy one another. They celebrate one another, and that stuff alone is good for 10 to 12 points a game. And for this group, the way that they share the ball, how unselfish they are. I mean, I'm really proud of them. It's not been ideal circumstances all season long, but they've shown the character of who they are. They've been resilient. They've responded to adversity, and they continue to elevate one another. And
I couldn't be more proud of this group than I am at this moment. The media has noticed it too. Everything you read about Indiana lately just centers around Clark being the absolute model of professionalism. It's all about how she talks about her teammates, how she supports her locker room, and how she really sets an example with her preparation. Now compare that to Reese, who actually had to backtrack and apologize for publicly taking those shots at her roster after that Tribune piece. It's just a night and day contrast. One so-called superstar told the whole world her team wasn't good enough. The other, an actual superstar, made the people around her stronger, and that's exactly why the Fever have so much hope right now. They're not just playing better basketball, they're being led with a maturity that goes way beyond Clark's
years. She set a culture in Indiana that Chicago desperately needs and hasn't found. And when you line that up against Reese's missteps, her downfall doesn't just look like bad luck. It looks like the result of her own choices.
What is the back injury? Everybody's questioning it now, and this will be
It could actually be a third straight season where Angel Reese just didn't finish playing in games. She just stopped. Some of these injuries, we saw them, but other times we didn't really see what happened. What was going on there? This is really not good. Look, picture this. One franchise player has fans buying tickets months in advance, totally hyped, while the other has her own teammates holding emergency meetings just to talk about locker room drama. So guess which franchise people are genuinely excited about? The Indiana Fever are just moving forward with so much momentum behind Caitlin Clark. They were a lottery team the year before she even arrived, but now they're seriously pushing into the playoffs.
Playoff picture, grabbing national TV slots and selling out arenas. Meanwhile, in Chicago, and more questions than answers. Fans aren't looking at the sky asking about championships. They're wondering if the front office regrets every decision tied to her.
Nothing but a mystery.
There's just this whole history surrounding Angel Reese. Some people are saying she's taken this season off to really focus on her off-court stuff and to avoid all these losses the Chicago Sky are piling up so they don't appear on her resume. It's almost like some feel Angel Reese doesn't truly care about basketball. Now, Clark, on the other hand, even handled her injury stretches with incredible maturity. She didn't hide at home or just disappear during those tough times. She hopped on planes, showed up in street clothes, and sat right there with her teammates. Contrast that with Reese, who just stayed away while injured, leaving others to try and keep Chicago afloat with absolutely no sign of leadership from the player they were supposed to be rallying behind. Her absence just really added to that feeling that she wasn't completely all in. And meanwhile, the Fever's entire supporting cast is absolutely thriving right there beside Clark.
Aaliyah Boston is building towards superstardom in the paint. Lexi Hull is playing with more confidence thanks to the spacing Clark creates. Kelsey Mitchell is having one of her best years, and Sophie Cunningham has slotted perfectly into that mix. Clark doesn't just score, she reshapes the floor and puts people in positions to succeed.
I think it just says a lot about who we have as human beings. That was one of the things that we made a priority in the offseason of, who we bring into this organization. Number one, quality human beings, selfless human beings that want to.
Yeah, they want to pull for one another, and they really understand that they have this depth for a reason. Sometimes that creates challenges getting people on the floor, but in situations like this is why you have it. And honestly, she's right. As a pro and as a pro coach, this is one of the most connected groups I've seen, and the proof of Indiana's rise is everywhere. They're absolutely smashing attendance records, pushing merchandise sales, and consistently earning primetime coverage. Now they've got a measly 10-win, 30-loss record, chasing the worst in the league, plus endless suspension headlines and a frustrated fan base that just isn't seeing any progress. Chicago fans are openly venting about all the chaos and pointing fingers directly at Reese's so-called leadership. That's truly where Clark and Reese couldn't be farther apart. Clark's professionalism is the reason veterans want to play with her. Reese's complaints, on the other hand, make big names want absolutely nothing to do with Chicago. And the stats completely back it up. Indiana wins more when Clark is on the court, while Chicago often looks better when Reese is off. Which brings us to the bigger question. Was Angel Reese ever really the right bet for the Angel Reese wanted Chicago's roster rebuilt around her. But the irony is the Sky might be realizing their biggest problem is actually her. A player just can't demand greatness while leading the league in turnovers and watching her team win more games without her on the floor. Analysts and fans are already framing her as toxic, with one person even calling her a liability you simply can't build around. Meanwhile, Indiana sees Caitlin Clark as the professional, team-first leader the WNBA truly needs. If the Fever keep building with Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull, and Cunningham, that future looks incredibly bright.